Hello. Today I wanted to do a presentation over mental health, specifically mental health concerns that are common following a stroke. Mental health concerns are important because they can affect you, they can affect your family, and they can affect your caregivers. Your quality of life can be drastically reduced if these problems are not addressed or if they are ignored. If left untreated, mental health concerns can continue to build and get stronger over time. So, I want to do a little overview over some of the most common post stroke conditions and some things you can do if you may be experiencing any of these. So, why are there changes in your mental health after a stroke? A stroke changes your brain. We've talked about how it changes your physical ability and your cognitive ability, but stroke can seriously affect our emotional capacity. And these changes in your emotional capacity could be because of um, some limitations you're facing. Maybe you're not satisfied with your recovery yet, but it can also be because of any damages that may have happened to certain areas of your brain. But either way, it is very common to have mental health concerns following a stroke. And these common concerns are depression, anxiety, and emotional lability. Forgot to take the Latin off there, so just ignore that for right now. But so for depression, according to some research I found, 33% of stroke survivors experience post stroke depression symptoms. This number actually goes up a year after the initial stroke, up to around 37%. The main reason are changes in daily living, loss of function in certain areas, and progress not being as fast as you expected. So, to put that into perspective, 1/3 of stroke survivors will and do battle with depression. Next is anxiety. About 1/4 of stroke survivors experience anxiety within 5 years after having their initial stroke. There's a lot of unknown after having a stroke. Many people report they worry about having another stroke, worry about their care, worry about their recovery, and worry about their financials. These are 100% natural and completely understandable fears, but for some people, they can compound and continue to worsen to the point where it starts to affect their quality of life. And then last is emotional lability. And we'll touch more on this in a bit, but this affects about 12% of stroke survivors. It basically means spontaneous, uncontrollable laughing, crying, or anger. There's really not a set trigger, but it does mean there is an underlying emotional issue. So, depression. Let's talk about some signs of depression. It's more than feeling sad or down. With depression, it's more like an extreme sadness. You can really start to feel a kind of emptiness that can't really be explained. Things that interest you may no longer feel as appealing. Hobbies, activities, and things that you like to do don't pique your interest or attention anymore. There can be feelings of guilt, especially after a medical emergency like stroke. Some people tend to think back to the past and blame themselves, which sort of manifests as guilt and can get worse and worse. And then last, we have depression can also present itself with anger and frustration with your feelings. So when we aren't equipped to properly deal with these feelings, we can become extremely frustrated and lash out at people we kind of normally wouldn't, or maybe it's um, a little bit displacement of anger towards people. I did forget to mention that depression um, also leads to a lot of social isolation, which kind of becomes, worsens some the depression symptoms and creates this sort of cycle. So these are anxiety presents itself as feelings of worry and dread, and this can be a constant feeling, a looming feeling that something bad is about to happen. A lot of people feel this after stroke, worrying about an additional stroke happening. Overthinking, so this can be any situation or conversation, replaying everything you think the other person may have meant. This could be also replaying events in your mind over and over and focusing on certain minute details that might not really matter, but that hyperfixation causes you to worry. Indecision or being indecisive, trouble making decisions because you're worried about making the exact right decision, which can lead to making no decision. Worrying, overthinking, and indecision can lead to lack of concentration. When you're worried about every little thing around you, it can be hard to live in the present and focus on what's directly in front of you. And worrying makes you tense. This means like tense in your psyche and tense in your muscles. And that constant tension can manifest itself into your shoulders, neck, and back muscles. And we have emotional lability. So, what is emotional lability? There's a disconnect between the frontal lobe of your brain, which controls your emotions, and the cerebellum and brainstem, where reflexes are mediated. And the effects are uncontrollable and can occur without an emotional trigger. So, those with emotional lability have involuntary bouts of crying, laughter, or anger, and the outbursts may be really out of proportion. For example, something slightly sad might yield exaggerated weeping, or something sad or somber occasion might spur laughter. There could also be rapid switching between laughing and crying. And as mentioned, that anger also becomes a factor. Maybe there's a lash out at something that didn't necessarily warrant any anger. So, what are some steps? The reason I went over these three is because they're the most common after stroke. They can also affect caregivers and family members, and being able to identify these can help you take steps towards trying to resolve some of those issues. So, as always, talk to someone. If you think you may be experiencing depression, anxiety, or emotional lability, then I really urge you to talk to your primary care physician. Physicians can help you explore medication options that can help mediate the symptoms, or maybe refer you to other medical officials who can help you out or direct you towards other resources. Therapy is always an option. Licensed therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, or mental health professionals can help you work on coping skills or building an emotional toolbox, which would be skills that can help you deal with symptoms and recognizing them when they arise or you feel like they're becoming too overwhelming. Family members can be great for discussing your issues. Sometimes venting about your problems can help you recognize the key issues and then create strategies to address them. Caregivers are also a similar option in this sense. They know you, they may notice some things that you're talking about and can help you kind of talk through those a little bit. So I picked out a few resources in the area that would be relevant to people at the American Stroke Foundation. So the first one would be the KC Care Clinic. And KC Care Clinic has 4 locations throughout Kansas City on the Missouri side. They offer behavioral health services, therapy, psychiatry, counseling, etc. for both short and long-term care. They accept Medicaid, Medicare, and can work with you if you aren't covered. Johnson County Mental Health, they offer walk-in services, and while they are mainly case manager based, they can connect you with local services you need while also listening and hearing your concerns that you may want to be addressing. The National Alliance on Mental Illness, the Greater KC, this is a community support group setting. They meet every week and are led by peers who have been through what you may be feeling. And it's a great way to take a less personalized step towards your mental health and getting support in a group setting. And then last one I have there is Mental Health America of the Heartland. And this is another service in KC offering case management, hotlines, warm lines, screenings, peer support programs, and education programs. Online options are becoming more popular. BetterHelp was one that I found that kept coming up when I was looking for reliable online resources for mental health, and I like that a bunch of different ones, and this one kept coming up most consistently. It's about $60 to $90 weekly for BetterHelp, and you talk with a licensed therapist either through chat, texting, phone, or video. And this could be an option if you do not want to go and talk to someone in person. They do not take insurance, so the set amount you pay is the same. Casey Care Clinic, Johnson County Mental Health, and Mental Health America all have numbers you can call if you really need someone to talk to. These are hotline oriented and provide someone who can listen to you and help you talk through some problems if you can't wait for a formal session. The last one I have there is CBT and DBT workbooks, and that CBT stands for Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, and DBT stands for Dialectical Behavior Therapy. And these are workbooks that can lead you through recognizing what is going on your own time. These workbooks walk you through the recognizing. While I would recommend talking to a physician, therapist, or loved one first, if you really are apprehensive, you can try one of these. I did a DBT workbook for my anxiety in grad school, and it really helped me get it under control and identify some of the underlying feelings that were triggering some of these feelings of anxiety. So outside of seeking help or going to get help, so these are some great healthy habits that are great for fighting these symptoms and maintaining your mental health. And the first one is exercise. So movement is not only great for physical health, but also for our psychological health. Exercise boosts your mood and releases endorphins, which are kind of those feel-good hormones that are released when we are exercising. And research shows exercise throughout the week helps prevent and diminish the symptoms of depression. Next is sleep. So getting the right amount of sleep is super important for mental health. In my last presentation over sleep, I mentioned the emotional regulation area of our brains gets extremely overwhelmed without sleep. So if we're not getting enough sleep, emotional triggers might be heightened, and we can start feeling a bunch of different things we wouldn't be feeling if we were getting the right amount of sleep. Eating well and avoiding alcohol. So a balanced diet with plenty of leafy greens, vegetables, fruits, and lean meat is great for mental health. 95% of our serotonin is produced in the GI tract. So a healthy GI system will help your mental health. Alcohol is not great for your GI tract, but it can be drunk, but only in moderation. So just be careful with that one. And then the last one I have is social interaction. Isolation worsens depression and anxiety. So being social and interacting with others will help you feel more connected and hopefully work through some of those feelings. So addressing your mental health issues doesn't make you weak. Speaking as a guy with a certain blue collar upbringing, feelings of mental health were never something we ever discussed, and they were something you kind of hid. It took time to get comfortable with having a certain level of vulnerability to deal with psychological issues. But one thing I've learned is that taking control of your mental health and seeking help when you need it is not weakness at all, but actually makes you extremely strong as a person. Thank you.